All right, hey guys, here we are again with this is our fifth episode, fourth episode of the Deck Talks. We got a legend today, Coach Tim Neiman with DeSales. Thanks for joining us. I'll give you guys I could probably go on for about 10 minutes with all your accomplishments, but I'll try to go quick here. Coach Neiman enters his 32nd season as the skipper of the DeSales University baseball program after taking over in 1990. Since you arrived, you've won 764 games, including 30 plus games 5 times, 20 plus games in 25 of your 31 seasons in 20 straight years. Have amassed a 764, 439, and 5 overall record. You're the only coach in sales history to win 700 plus games in any sport, and entered last season ranked 31st on the all-time victories list among all NCAA Division III coaches. Overall, Neiman has been named Coach of the Year 13 different times. I'll stop there because I know the leagues have changed over the years and all that stuff, but overall, Coach, it's a hell of a track record there. And I guess let's go back to the beginning. It's always, like I said, always interesting to hear you get started, and then kind of dive into how you stayed and created that consistent winning culture because that's what I was saying. How do you create a culture? I think that's one of the hardest things to do with a
Yeah,
program.
that's a good question. First of all, thanks for having me. I've heard great things of On Deck and what you guys are doing and accomplishing. So, credit and tip my hat to you guys. I think if it was not doing well, I wouldn't have came on today. But I try to associate with good people. Surround yourself with good people. It's always a good axiom. And you guys are doing really, really, really good things. And I think it sounds like you're doing it the right way, which is critical. The culture thing is interesting because it's like chemistry. With your club. I know it when I see it. I don't know how to get it. I don't. I mean, you can coax it and all those kinds of things. I think culture similar. I think you know it when you have it, you know it when you don't have it. And I think it starts way back in the beginning of expectations and having having guys buy into what you're trying to accomplish. But oddly enough, there's a lot of wins there, and I've never you know thrown a ball in anger and at the sales or took it at bat or anything. Like the kids play, they win. I just try not to screw them up, but you have to own the losses, and I own those losses. I mean, those are times where I think, well, geez, why did we get beat today? I mean, that's ironically, I don't remember a lot of the wins, a few, not a lot. Remember the kids for sure, and the people, and they're men now. Hell, they're guys I've had way back. Their kids are in college now, so I remember them. Some of the wins, not a ton, but a lot of the losses kind of leak in there. It's like, okay, what do I got to do to be a better coach? And why did I fail the club today? Why did I let them lose? So, and they know that, so they'll forget it, and come back the next day. But, for the coach, the head coach, man, he just sticks with you, for a while. But I started way back. I mean, I was a pitching coach at Kutztown University. Well, let's go before that. I was American Legion coach in Quakertown from '83 to '88. So that was well before, the travel ball heyday, where it was not uncommon for us in Quakertown when we were at Park to have 400 or 500 people at a game. Now, we were good. I mean, we had good players, and, I think the kids played very well, but, it wasn't uncommon to have 500 people at a playoff game, but there wasn't anything else going on. And there's a lot of team camaraderie. And I'm sure we'll talk about some travel stuff later. But that's when it all started. '83, '88 kind of cut my teeth. I really enjoyed it. I was a much better coach than I was a player for sure. Though I wish I knew back then what I knew now. Maybe I would have been a little better player. Um, but that's when it kind of started. I did it 6 years, and then I was the pitching coach with Quakertown in the Atlantic Collegiate Baseball League. Had some big leaguers. Helped. I mean, I basically got to get those college kids and say, look at, what didn't your college pitching coach let you do? I'll let you play with it a little bit and experiment. But I'm going to send you back the same way I got you or better, hopefully. I'm not going to send you back, wounded, you know. So I was fun at 3 years of that. Travel was interesting in the ACBL at the time, but back then too was probably one of the top 10 leagues in the league. There wasn't, you know, 80 summer leagues that we have nowadays. So consequently, that league's kind of going backwards some. But that was doing that, and I became the pitching coach at Kutztown University for 3 years. I had a young man from Upper Moreland. I'll never forget. Greg Lund was his name, and you know, they were floundering around, not really good at the time. I can't say we were all that great for the 3 years I was there, but Craig Lund was mulling around in the outfield one day, and I was watching him throw, and I said, Lundy, did you ever pitch? And he's a real modest guy. He goes, maybe a little bit back in high school. I said, we're going to pitch. We're going to pitch. So I put him on the mound, and you know, 2 years later, he was drafted by the Giants, you know, in the 20th round, and, you know, throwing, you know, 92-ish, something. That was before all the gadgets and buzzers and bells going on, by the way. And, you know, kind of taught him how to pitch, taught him a changeup. I said, look, the changeup is, it's hitter hits what he sees, not what you throw. He don't care what you throw. So here's the grip. Let the grip do the work and throw the hell out of it. Just throw it. You know, don't do anything else. It'll be about 8 to 10 miles an hour different. And I said, you're going to get swings and misses at pitches right down the middle. You are, if you have good arm speed. And he used to throw them down the middle. And kids would swing and miss, and you look over at me and laugh. I'm like, you know, it's not that hard. It ain't that hard. Guys make the game way too difficult. But he got a chance to sign, and that was really cool at the time. And I was also an associate scout for the Pirates, excuse me, and the Brewers for several years. I'm still very close to a guy named Ron Rizzi, who's now he's one of the special assistants to the general manager of the Washington Nationals. So I'm still very close to him. So I learned a lot of stuff about evaluating and people and that sort of thing. In the meantime, my full-time gig was selling sporting goods to teams and schools and stuff like that. So I had met Tom Shirley. He was the athletic director at what was then Allentown College, and was in there one day, and he goes, hey, would you ever be interested in, you know, coaching here? So I heard good things about you and stuff. I said, well, honestly, Tom, only if you want to win. If not, don't waste my time. Because they were pathetic. They were pathetic. My Legion team would have beat them 10 out of 10. No questions asked. And I said, if you're interested in winning, I'd be interested in talking to you. Because, you know, the year before I got there, they were 6-16. 6-16. So go back to culture. My first meeting with those group of players, I said, look, you won 6 games in a year. A year. I said, you're going to win 6 games in a week. All right? Get that in your head right now. 6 in a year. I mean, this is not acceptable, you know. But they played on a terrible field. And, you know, since then, I mean, we've done some great things up there facility-wise and everything else. And, you know, truly to build a program, if you build it, they surely will come. And, you know, college coaching as a head coach and stuff, man, you're in the sales business. You're selling education, you know, to parents, and the kids just want to go play. And, oh, by the way, you know, we have books at the sales, you know. So, but you know what? If baseball gets them an education like my kids, Doc, I think you had on, and Nolan, he'd be another good one. You know, that's good. That got him through. They got him a degree, you know, especially Doc, man. So, I mean, he did what was necessary to get by. But he did it, and he's got a degree, and that's all that matters. And I think 99% of the kids I've had in 32 years, they came to DeSales probably to play baseball. And, oh, by the way, you know, you're going to get a pretty good, you know, education out of it. So that's fine. And that's, you know, that's ends in the classes. That's, you know, 35 kids, you know, on a ball club, and maybe they're paying, you know, at a place like DeSales, 25, 30,000, just do the math, you know, it's $1 million a year. So young coaches out there never forget that. I mean, that is your calling card. Mark Marquis, who was the head coach at Stanford, was the head coach of the USA Olympic team in 1988. And they were in Quakertown. They were touring all the small towns in the country playing all-star teams. So they played the ACBL all-star team. So where they went, I went. I was a liaison. It was an awesome experience. Skip Burtman, Marquis. I mean, there's some big-time guys. And he told me, he said, Timmy, if you ever have a chance to be a good coach or a good recruiter, you damn well better be a good recruiter. So it doesn't matter what you know. It doesn't matter. And you can put guys out there, it doesn't hurt. But if you have guys that can't play, it's not going to matter. And I never forgot that. Never. So, I mean, I think I'm an okay coach, but I've been a pretty good recruiter, I think, and, be able to take care of the kids and assure mom and dad that, they're going to be safe. And, I mean, first goal is to make sure they graduate. Second is, give them the best, you know, education, baseball education we can give them. And thirdly, if pro ball is part of their future, I still have a few buttons and connections. And we've had 15, I think, have stuck their toe in the water. The best one was, I had a ninth rounder that got to double A, and he could have been a big leaguer if he'd have worked harder. Just could have been. He was an outfielder. And a 24th rounder, and, lots of other free agent guys and even independent ball these days. So we've had a few, but it's not a realistic goal, but I would never take the dream away for guys that maybe have a chance. And we have maybe one or two now that, kind of fringy. We'll see what happens with them. So, that's kind of been the early part of the journey. And, and I went to Allentown College, and the next year we were 19 and 13. And I've never had a losing season until this last, if you can even count it, because our southern trips are usually pretty difficult. So we were in Methodist and Trinity and Texas, and we were 4-8 out of the block, which is usually what we do every year. Right. And then come home and, kind of goes like 25 and 10 or something, that kind of stuff. But, I don't know if you count that or not. But I've never had a losing season, but that's not because of me. It's because of the culture and kids' expectations. And but ironically enough, we've never talked about winning. I never really mention it. I mean, it's a product of all the things that you're supposed to do on and off the field. Make them better people off the field as well. And if they know you care, they're going to give you everything they got. They always will. Once in a while they'll fool you. And and we're going to talk about what I look for too. But what kind of person they are is huge. It's huge, and you get fooled once in a while, but for the most part, no, I haven't. And luckily, those kids will go out and they give you everything they got. And, it's amazing how much they can accomplish when nobody cares who gets the credit. And I pound that into them. Don't care who gets the credit. I had a player one time, and I know you got questions here, but I'm off the races. I had a player one time and came to me before a playoff game, center fielder from Virginia, a very nice player, a good player. Leadoff guy, and goes, Coach, I'm going to go 4 for 4 today. That's all he said. And I said, well, that'd be great. If we win, that'd be great. You're 4 for 4 and win the game. I'm really excited. I'll also be excited if you go 0 for 4 and we win the game. Do you understand what we're talking about? So it's not about you. It's about the ball club. And, and I think he got it. You got it. Eventually they get it. Eventually. Not right away. Eventually. So
some quicker than others, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that's a great story. And I two things that stuck out from you talking. I remember, I think as a coach and probably just as a competitor is what you are deep down is how you said you remember the losses more. I had a really bad game one time, and my buddy's dad came over and said, I think it was Joe DiMaggio, one of the Yankee on. He goes, the day he retired, somebody asked him, what was your most memorable game? And he said, the day I dropped 3 fly balls in right field. And it was like, there you go.
That's it. I mean, that's really it. And that's, that's the beauty and the grace of baseball.
Yeah.
That, man, you celebrate the successes, but, man, you're haunted by some of that stuff, it's just how the game is. And that's the glamour of it, I think.
Yeah. Well, it can drive you nuts, that's for sure. But it's
I'm gray.
No, I think another good piece of that you talked about is because I played Division III baseball and I played independent ball. Kind of blew it my senior year getting drafted, whatever. Everybody has their sob story. But I think with playing into the recruiting these days that I always try to tell, I played in, I went to Shenandoah.
Good program.
And then back in the early 2000s-ish, I mean, it was very competitive.
Absolutely.
And I saw plenty of guys get drafted out of our conference, and like we played Ferrum, when Billy Wagner came out of there and stuff. So I always tell people that, don't overlook this Division III baseball as it can go on past that. And I think that's probably a huge draw for players with you, knowing you have those connections.
I think it helps, John. I always tell kids, and and the travel thing's kind of a disease a little bit with some people, but it breeds some selfishness and those kinds of things. But I tell I tell kids and their parents, don't evaluate by division, evaluate the program.
Right.
Evaluate the program. What are they doing? I mean, we're a pseudo Division I program at a Division III university. I mean, we have a Division I stadium with lights. I mean, but the bottom line is you're getting a hell of an education. That's, I mean, I do another thing, talk about 5 fits. When you're talking to parents and stuff, and I really try to talk to kids and parents. So it's got to be an academic fit first. Has to be. So if you're going looking for college, and never forget I had a kid wanted fish cultures. Okay, love to have you at baseball, but there's only like 2 schools in the country that do that, so we're not one of them. So the search ends there. Go to the next. So if you have my major, then it's a social fit. Not big school, little school. Do I want 100,000 people at a football game 5 times a year in the fall? Do I want 300 people in my English class and 100, are in one room and another 100 in another room and another, what do you want? I mean, a lot of those social things factor in, from housing to food service and all those things. I mean, they all factor in. So, all right, got my major, like the school. Next thing, can we afford it? Especially in this day and age. My goodness. I don't know, and I've said this for years, I don't know how you justify the cost of education. I don't know. But they are. I don't think they're justifying it, but they're charging it. So, can we afford it? All right, we get to that, man, got my major, I love the school, man, I just can't afford it. Unfortunately, you got to stop and go to the next one. I think the nice thing at DeSales is they try to make it work. The kid really wants to come there. They try to make it work. It used to be where we'll be able to get the same number as a state school. Costs have kind of got drifted away a little, but it's not terrible. It's still fairly close. So I got 3. Major, like it, we can afford it. Let's go. Does a coach want me? Now there's an athletic fit. Does a coach want me? How do I know? How do I not know? I emailed the guy 5 times and never heard from him. And, we're diligent about trying to answer them. I feel really bad. I've gotten good at writing. Look, they're welcome to walk on. DeSales is a great school, but, I can't guarantee a spot at this time. But sometimes you don't get back. And I would have stopped after 2. I haven't heard anything. And the video stuff that people send, somebody's got to take a look. And I know you guys, somebody's got to take a look before it goes out.
Right.
I mean, I look at videos like, man, somebody said this was okay. And you look at it, it's like, I know, and I don't do a whole lot, but I don't think video can perpetuate it, but it certainly can take you away. I mean, it can whet the appetite to try to see a guy in person. So how do I know he wants me? Am I getting form camp invites, which we all do? Are we getting personal text messages, or is there a personal relationship? All right, so I got all those things, but you got to do homework too. How many kids on a club? How many guys at my position? I mean, there's so many things. And the last fit, the 5th one, is for the parents especially, the emotional fit. My son Johnny. Let's make another name. My son Harry, because you're John. My son Harry, batted third and played shortstop since he was at 10th grade. Well, that's great. So did everybody else at our school and a lot of schools. 7% of high school kids play in college. So everybody else did the same. So Harry is going to go to, DeSales and say, he's a shortstop, and, he batted third in high school since 10th grade. Now he's a freshman with a main in front of him. I mean, they're 21, they're men. I mean, they're men in every way, shape, or form. So the game plays, Harry doesn't play. Mom and dad go out the street, the Copperhead Grill, for something to eat after the game.
Great mozzarella sticks.
Right, great mozzarella sticks.
Great.
We'll have to make sure they see this. So right out the street, great place to go. And parents say, you know what, Harry, Neiman doesn't know what he's doing. You should be playing, right? So, and I do this with parents. And, Harry will yield. He's going to shake his head and say, yeah, because they're mom and dad. But Harry knows deep down inside, man, there's a man in front of me, and when I get my chance, I get my chance, but that all being said, I don't ask for your birth certificate when it comes time to make a lineup. No, you're all wearing the same uniform. nowhere on the lineup says date of birth. It says name, number, position, and we go from there. No date of birth, so, but it takes time and very good programs for the young kids to break in. And I mean, the game's bigger, faster, stronger, smarter. All those things are true. There's no doubt about it, so that young guys got to adjust quickly. But, some of my better players have been very successful as freshmen. They work their way in. As Richie Ashburn used to say, managers put you in the game, you decide whether you stay in or not. And that's true. Man, that is true. I tell my guys that, you decide where you stay in. I'm putting you in, take the opportunity. So those 5 fits are really, some emotional things like, all right, mom and dad, how are you going to handle it? Don't do it. You got to pitch a bone. You get after everybody else, the other parents, and pollute everybody. Or are you going to, at 62 years old, I have a little equity, I think. So, is that what you're going to do? Or are you going to be part of the solution here and be part of the program? Realize, but there are schools where, you might go 10-40, but Harry's starting at shortstop and he's batting third, and Harry's probably miserable because they won 10 games, and those are real conversations that parents have to have and realize that, hey, the better the program, the more likely, that may be. But the outcomes for that, later are hard to measure. I mean, they're just, you can't compare them, because you're going to get seen, you play well, you're going to learn, you're going to become a better baseball player, get your degree, and make a contribution to society. So, I think those are really important for people to understand. And if you look, the guys that are top 5 rounders, and the guys that stick out, they don't need any of that. They're going to do what they do. That's fine. But the another 95% of the kids in the country, they're all under that umbrella. They all are. So how many times did they make a bad decision by going to a school where they didn't have their major? I hate it socially. I'm on the team, but I'm not playing now. What good is that? Now you're going through the process again, and maybe even a third time. Transfer portal is just brutal. It's a disease, man. So people go on that. Why would you want to go through that again? I don't know. Try to make a right choice out of the block. And sometimes mistakes are made. That's the way it goes. It's understandable. But having those things in order, and if one's out of order, just go to the next solution. I think that's the way to go. It might have been, John, wow, you ended up at Shenandoah. You just go through this process, and it takes kind of the anxiety away, if you will, I think, anxiety. But kids have to be realistic. They need to go watch the team play. They either play or gotta go watch. And they'll look at it. I tell kids there's 3 things that'll happen, especially ones I don't know. Look, you look at it and say, man, I can really play here. Well, that'll make me feel better. At least I'll try and see you. And it's a great school, all that stuff. Or secondly, it's like, I'm not sure, but I know if baseball doesn't work out, I'm happy, And thirdly, you look at it, it's like, I got no shot. But they have my major. I like the school. I can afford it. And those 3 things are the most important part. But people don't understand that. They, they're living at the water cooler the next day, and, the social media stuff. Come on,
I think that's one of the, I think you touched on one of the biggest problems in recruiting right now is it's more about the label after the D than it is about the actual fit for the kid. Even before we had the whole coronavirus pandemic where some schools were canceling seasons and, kids were starting to jump in the transfer portal maybe at one of the highest rates it's ever been. I'm not sure, I've only been in it for a little bit, but it was still jam-packed last year and the year prior. And, that's clearly from, is there always situations that, lead to people transferring? Of course, but I'm going to go on a limb and say majority of those were because they cared more about the number after the D than it was the actual fit for them academically as well as athletically.
Oh, you're right, Jake. Kids are making, I think parents really influence their kids more than, how about your son just be happy? He's happy, we're all happy, as a parent, I'm happy. Their happiness is important to me. And I think the parents should be the same way. But man, you got parents chasing dreams that are unrealistic, and they'll put their kids in situations that probably shouldn't be in. And it's not across the board. It's not 100%, but I see a lot of decisions made on exactly what you're talking about. I'm going D1. Okay, let's go back and evaluate the program. I mean, you're doing a good job with your school. I mean, we've beaten Division I schools. We've beaten. They don't play us, and I get it. I probably wouldn't either. They might this spring because everybody's going to need games. But I you can't have, what's the program like? Go watch. If you take the label away and watch, your club or my club, a good Shannon Dulles, watch one of those good clubs play, Division I school, and just take the blinders off of division, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, the difference typically will be the depth on the mound. Typically that's the major difference. But you might have a man or two sitting around, but you know, it's not that major of a difference. It's really no. You put a guy in a bump. I mean, the one year I think you were on to the World Series. We didn't play any Division I's that year, but that year Marietta beat Ohio State. Concordia, Texas beat the University of Texas. I mean, so they don't want to play anymore. They really, I mean, I don't blame them, but I'm not sure I would either. I don't know, but I mean, that's the case. I remember, we used to play with the hate it. I mean, the '90s was awesome for fall baseball. We were allowed 9 dates of competition in 6 weeks, so we played Division I schools all the time. So we had 9 doubleheaders against 9 Division I schools. So 18 games, we'd go like 14 or 4. I mean, so they would write it off like, oh, it's only the fall. Oh, okay. So you weren't trying? You weren't trying. We're playing a bunch of guys too, so it's okay, whatever. But they would never really play in the spring. I played a few in Florida, and LaSalle played us one year. But I called Joe Hindelang. He was a Penn State coach. He was at Lafayette, then Penn State. And I said to him one fall, I said, Joe, love to come out and, I wish to go to Navy and stuff. I just like the kids to see those places. And I said, I'd be happy to, come out and play in the fall. And he goes, well, we're not allowed to fall. In the fall, the Big Ten, we have really no outside competition. And how true that was, I do think they do play a game. And I said, well, look, in the spring, if you're ever an opening, I mean, I can make it happen in 24 hours. I'll come out. And finally, he said the truth, and which I gave him a lot of credit for. He goes, now, Timmy, he said, if you guys came out here and beat us, the baseball people in the world would really understand that that was possible. But the other 95% of the people in the world was like, whoa, what the heck? You lost to Division III school of DeSales? So I said, you know what? I respect that you said that, because that's true. That was the truth, and I respected that. So I said, I appreciate your honesty, and so far. I mean, that's the baseball, world, that we live in.
Do you think part of it as well is the actual facilities faults as well? I mean, I think every facility wishes that they had guys going to North Carolina, LSU, all over these top Division I's getting drafted here and there. But do you think some facilities have an issue with more or less making sure that the kid finds the right fit over, I guess, maybe publicity for their facility because of where the kid's going?
That's a pretty good question. I think the vast majority are publicizing where those kids go. The vast majority. The right thing to do is to publicize how you affect it and how you help them make the decisions. And hopefully it works out to be a great decision, and the parents come back and say, you know what, this is the way it should be. And that's the truth. And if all those ones that, will pump up on a website, this kid went to Carolina and this kid went to LSU. Well, how about a follow-up? It's like, how about the follow-up on that? Is that kid still there? How did it go? Is he still playing? What was, he transferred 3 times since then, but you never see that, do you? You never see that. And again, the hypocrisy of it all. I get it. You want to promote, hey, we had this kid here. I always get a kick out of, a lot of places will take credit, not yours, but a lot of places will take credit. Yeah, my kid, Division I, he's going to Virginia. And they pretty much, you can read between the lines, taking all the credit for that, every piece of credit, as if nobody else had anything to do with the kid's success. Meaning a high school coach, junior high coach, his little league, his dad just having a catch in the backyard. Everybody has a part of that boy's transformation. Everybody. So you can't, one guy, hey, Jesus, look what I did. I mean, I think good facilities help that process along the way. There's no doubt. There's no question about that. But man, humility sometimes goes a long way. Humility goes a long way. It's knowing the customers and the parents, and I don't hold back on the parents much anymore. So I try to tell them the truth. I mean, it's the truth. I always wanted to tell, I said, kid Doc and Nolan, I said, what we should do sometime is start a travel program and call it The Truth. And we're the truth on the front, and just, okay, you want to talk about it? We'll talk about it. If not, it's the truth.
You might have trouble finding
That's a fact.
flyers.
What's that, John?
Might have trouble finding flyers.
Yeah, well, you might. You might. You very well might. That's for sure.
I think, kind of tying into maybe some of like the next question, what you've seen change as far as, and I'm 40, so I kind of remember where Legion Ball was kind of the main summer league. And I was kind of the very beginning of when the travel stuff started, and just maybe a little bit of your perspective of how, pros and cons of what you've seen, because it's almost to the point where people are, well, you don't even have to go to high school, just play on your travel team. Don't even worry about playing high school or anything else. That's where you need to be noticed and stuff, and how true that is these days versus it's not really. You'll find the guys if they're there type deal. If they're good enough, that's an old one I always believe. If you're good enough, they'll find you kind of deal. But just how you've seen it change from the local town leagues into these bigger, organizations and businesses, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's true. And it still holds true that if you can play, if somebody's going to find you. You always get a kick out of all the rankings that are put out. Well, that's good. It's well and good. I mean, if I get a check, I might get ranked higher, maybe, I don't know. But how about the kids that can't afford it? The kids that don't have access to be ranked. I mean, they're pretty good, bro. There's some really good. Give me those guys. I'll take, that was old school scouting, go find them. And, that's old school scouting. I mean, the guy I worked for the Pirates drove a guy by the name of Don Money. I don't know if, John, you remember Don Money. He was the third baseman before Mike Schmidt. But the Pirates signed him. But the scout guy, Joe Consola, who mentored me, found Don Money at a tryout camp. So you'd invite all these kids at a tryout camp and you sniff around the countryside. And I mean, I did a little bit of that and it started to transition. That was fun. But he drove Don Money around in his car for 2 weeks. And he kept him. He held him hostage for 2 weeks so nobody else would find him. I mean, isn't that awesome? Nobody else, and then because the Pirates had nowhere to put him in those 2 week span. I mean, they no openings on any of their minor league teams. So, but one opened up, sent him away, and that was in. So nobody else would find him. That to me is, exactly what it should be. I mean, I yearned for those old days. Now how it is today, I mean, you don't have to look any farther going to like the Diamond Nation where there's 100 teams and 100 college coaches and people like that. So parents see that. And quite frankly, man, I have a hard time, focusing and concentrating at those places. There's just so much going on. So I try to go see a specific kid or whatever. Excuse me. But, that's where it's at. That's, and that's what parents see and the kids see. And, the downside is, and I mentioned earlier, is the selfishness that travel ball overall has bred, where the kids don't know. I mean, they don't know the American Legion days in the 80s. And, with the town coming out to support your team, learning how to be a good teammate and stuff. It's really, everybody for himself for the most part. You rarely see, them really caring after the game. They walk off the field and they maybe won a medallion or something. Okay, but nobody really cares about. I'm pretty sure they don't. I don't see it. That okay, what's next? Who was there watching? Who was who were the colleges there and how did I play? And, you never know who's watching. That's for sure. I always tell our players all the time. And high school kid, you don't know who's watching. You don't know. And by the way, we all talk to each other. I mean, that kid's a dog. When that kid's around, kid's around. He can really play, but man, I don't want him. It's after all the evaluation is done is what kind of person are you? Man, that is true. Big time true. So you can be the best player. I was with Joe Consoli at a game one time. we got there. He said, Timmy, we want to get there before the game starts to see how this kid arrives in a car. Yeah, we want to see him get out of the car. And I got there, we sat in a parking lot, watched a kid get out of the car. He's in sandals and hat on backwards. He goes, okay, Timmy, we're not going to stay. Just because of that. Just because, he's not a prospect for the Pirates doesn't mean he's a prospect for somebody else, but that's not what we want.
Right.
So you talk about culture and stuff, and all those little old axioms are still kind of inbred in me as we kind of look at players. But high school, the high school teams, and you watch the good high school programs and the kids play, and the problem is they're all so protective of each other. Travel ball, somebody needs to, and I've said this to the ABCA folks for years, somebody needs to coordinate all that somehow. But that horse is out of the barn. I don't see it. Everybody's got different rules and different ways to play, and there's just no standardization of it. Where high school you do, American Legion you do. So I think that's a big factor in it. I like watching a good high school team and watching them in competitive playoff situations. And, it's a real, you don't get that in trouble. It's an interesting business, and it's not going away. And I think the vast majority of guys do a pretty good job. If you're humble about it and deliver a good service, people will come back. And that's okay. You provide them a good experience and make them better people on off the field, and look out, care about them. Those all things work out. If, it's like Wawa and, Sheets is, both are pretty good. People pick one or the other. That's the way it goes. So you don't lose sleep over it. But from a parent's perspective, the kids, they see, they want to be where the scouts are. You go to East Cobb, Georgia, and they're playing in hundreds of fields. And then, all these coaches are there. Well, they're not all at one spot. And they're where the big time players are. They're not out at some high school field, an hour and a half from East. They're not. They're not. So, they get that perception. It's a tricky thing. It's not going anywhere. And I think it can be good overall down the road. But, I think people need to work together, and, the good high school programs, the good, the travel programs, they work together, can be really beneficial for both, because the indoor spaces have the expertise and the facilities and stuff to be able to teach and give them those extra things outside of the season. I think that's really important. Where in high school, not so much. You don't quite have that much time, or the wherewithal, if you will. So I think from that standpoint, I think it's really, really important and beneficial. So you got to just respect each other, a little bit.
I think it's interesting. I got my first opportunity this summer up at your guys' camp to kind of sit next to you for, 5-6 hours in one day and just kind of, watch baseball, watch the recruiting. And I think it's interesting that you say, about the personality and how they do this and how they do that, because the one thing that stood out to me was you didn't miss any detail per any kid. So, you knew if a kid ran out with his glove in his right hand or in his left hand, if it was on his hand, if it was here, if he was holding it by the pinky, not one detail, but then on the same end, throughout all of the time that you've been doing it, and all the success is, you kind of figured out, well, if there's tendencies to what the good players do and to what the not bad players, but the players who cannot compete at certain levels do, in between innings when they go to warm-ups and stuff like that. And I think that was probably the most interesting thing for my whole entire summer recruiting this year, was getting to listen to you kind of show us the right way to do it from a perspective that's not metrics, that's not numbers oriented. It's more or less, hey, look, been around a baseball field a long time, and I've seen a lot of good players, and a lot of them do it this way, and there's a reason why they do it this way, and kind of looking for those guys. I think that's kind of something that I think is interesting when you bring it into a facility, because, we obviously have teams run here out of the facility, not, in a huge portion, but we have some. And, it's kind of one of those things I was talking to him the other day, instilling those in between innings, before the game, how we do certain things. IO, I know you ripped me about my IO this summer. Doing certain things the right way and making sure we instill that in our guys here in the facility as well.
No, thank you, Jake. I enjoyed spending time with you, and there are kids that fool you too. There's a lot of fake hustle and stuff. I remember seeing a player in a jersey in the outfield, and we're sitting down the left field line, and it was Johnny Cole and I was head coach of Penn. I was at Dartmouth at the time, and the kid would run out and look, look to his left to see if we were watching him. So that kid, get away from me. And I found a shortstop. They're like, you see that kid there? I'm going to get that kid. And I did. He was a shortstop pitching. But we were watching, we're carrying the glove on the field by the thumb. We were watching some little leaguers back there. Because they were, look at that kid. That kid's going to be a player. He's like 10 years old. He carries the glove on the field with his throwing hand by the thumb, basically. And it's like, he's not carrying it like a loaf of bread just natural instincts, I guess. Tools are never going. We should talk a little data maybe. But tools are never going. They are important. You got to be able to run, throw, hit, and field, and all hit with power, great. But you have to have some body control. You have to have all those athletic abilities. You've got to. The data is very interesting. I know Doc was talking to you guys about I'm old school. This means I'm old. I've been around, seen a lot of baseball. I think the data is important. But it's only as good as a person delivering the information. We all can set up a Rapsodo and blast motion and whatever else there is out there. But if you don't know what the heck you're looking at and can actually tell it to a player to make him better, then you're wasting your money. It's a joke. So you need to be able to take that information and give it to the player to make them better. Sometimes it's good to ignore the information. They don't need to hear anything, get more confused. Well, ignore it. And there's sometimes, we have a Rapsodo hitting, and I look at it, and the kid's like, launch angle, but tell me if the ball comes off the kid's bat or not. But no, I hear it, I see it. So there's one time it was very useful. One of our outfielders from Texas, a very good player, strong kid. But man, he was swinging his bat was like a flipper on a pinball machine that goes out and around balls. I'm like, dude, man, so the ball's coming off your bat like this. It's spinning this way. All right. I don't need the Rapsodo to tell me, but it didn't register with him. It didn't. So the Rapsodo did show, look, let me show you how this ball's spinning off your bat. Whoa, how about we fix this? How about we get the ball to spin, that way a little bit? And what do we have to do that? And he went on to he was an all-region kid that senior year. And man, he backspun some balls to, man, he clobbered some stuff. And when he would get around the ball, I said, all right, tell me about it. He goes out and around it. Yeah, that's not very good. Every ball you hit hard is hooked foul. Why? Because the ball spins off your bat like that. So that was the one instance, for me where it helped. But I think, the kid with exit velocity of 85 doesn't mean he can't play. Doesn't. You still got to make contact. You guys know we can make hitters look good, man, can't we? We are standing there, good stance. Any 8-year-old, 18, they look good. Doesn't mean they're going to hit. It doesn't mean they're going to hit. He has the best stance. Same with a pitcher, man. I give him the best mechanics ever known to mankind. Doesn't mean going to throw well. It doesn't mean he's going to be a good pitcher. So there's still all those other innate things that go along with all the data. But the data is important. And I said this in the ABC in my opening comments. ABCA was the organizations, and I've said this for a few years now, the organizations are able to blend the data and the information. They should be calling it information, not data. The new information and stuff that can help player development with the guys that actually have a feel for the game. You blend all those things together, that organization is going to excel. A very good example, I said this as well, wouldn't have been nice, in the game 6 of the World Series, and Blake Snell's on the mound, who's unbelievable in that game. Have somebody like a Don Zimmer or some old school baseball guy next to him and say, hey, Skip, I think we got to keep him in. This is not Blake Snell today. This is Sandy Koufax. This is a performance that is unheralded. It's unbelievable. They got no shot. No, it would have been nice just to have somebody in your ear telling you that. Nope. Yeah, hey, went through the order 3 times, and the analytics say blah, blah, blah. And maybe you leave him out there and he gets hit around. I don't know, and maybe because you took him out, it worked out well too. I don't know. But that's what makes the game great. And in that instance, the analytics in Tampa Bay and Kevin Cash should probably be, the manager of the year and all that stuff. But you go through all that stuff, but man, it's not played by robots. It's not coached and managed. It's people, they're human beings playing a game. So those elements still have to be blended in with, all the data and the information that's coming out. Those are the people, those are the organizations that'll make it great. Because sometimes you just got to stay, wait, I'm leaving Blake Snell in, I'm going to live with it, and you could tell by the reaction in the dugout, and they looked at each other and it's like, oh, thank God. Mookie Betts and John, they looked at each other and it's like, Dave Robertson, thank God. Thank God. You can just tell. And that was the end of the game. So I think that's a good example of it, because it was like 75 pitches or whatever. It was an easy 75 too. Wasn't a rough one. Wasn't like he was in trouble. It was easy. He was easy. I see a lot of games in Reading where, guys are, man, that was a hard 80, 90, man, that was rough. Dude's in trouble every inning. He's 3-1, 3-2, and that was hard. That's rough. Remember the other guys that are cruising that, it's like taking pictures of, he's at 100. Okay, well, how did we get there? What does it look like? How does he feel? Was it a hard 100? Was it easy? That's part of the game that some of the, the analytics take away, and that's not good for the game. It's not,
How many games a year do you do with Reading, Coach?
About 30.
30?
Yeah, it's awesome, Jake. I go get there about 2 or 3 hours before so I don't look stupid, and I can at least tell you some stuff about people. We shoot an open half hour before the game. More nervous about that, but we're shooting and we can redo it, but I just want to get it right, Then we relax a little bit and the game starts. Then the game starts, I talk about the game's over, do a little quick wrap up, and I'm out of there in 5 minutes. I don't have to worry about, stay out of trouble, make sure you study, bus leaves tomorrow, where's your uniforms? I don't worry about any of that. It's awesome. It's awesome. And I've seen, doing it for 10 years, I guess it is now, I've seen a lot of guys come through, and, I've had scouts call me, ask me about players, and it's kind of cool. So it kind of keeps me connected with, the pro side. And it's a different game. The things that I get away with and you guys would get away with in college, you can't get away with it in pro ball. It's just different. And I understand that. So, I think I'm cut out for 162 games as opposed to 40 or 50. I'd rather be at the ballpark every day. But it's a lot of fun. And the guy I work with, Steve Degler, is amazing. He's a play-by-play guy. He's just amazing. So, but you get a packet of stuff like, media notes. I'm like, man, it's like the first game I did, it's like, I got to make sure I know what I'm talking about. So people, and it occurred to me, you only know what I'm telling you. You don't know I have it. So I'm just going to give you things that, that are pertinent. And, after that, it was pretty easy. It's kind of a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's definitely awesome.
So one thing I'm big on and very curious, especially, again, I think it's the old school. I'd call it experienced.
Thank you.
And that I found the more I do this, and looking back on my own career, is I feel like coaches, unfortunately, end up a lot of times being sports psychologists, but we have no education and background on it. And it's that, talk about individualized. What have you found maybe with your players, and I guess it maybe can be part of culture too, of how you deal with because I in the end feel like that's always what it can be the downfall. When you have the talent, it ends up being the guys who don't get in their own way, can handle the failure. The best guys are, you can't tell if they're 5 for 5 or 0 for 50 the way they carry themselves. And how you've approached that maybe over the years with players. Has it changed from when you first started out to now, and things like that? Because that to me is, as we all know, baseball is such a mental game. Without being a sports psychologist, you've seen so much. It probably is somewhat innate in you on how to deal with those type of things.
Well, that's a great point, John. And it certainly has changed quite a lot in the last decade, probably 5 years more, but probably the last decade, where I think I spend at least 50% of my time. Like when we take BP before a game, we have enough coaches, they're really good. Surround yourself with good people, let them coach and everything I spoke about, but I'll walk around the outfield or just walk around player to player and just spend a minute with them and just talk to them, because they have things, especially this day and age, there are issues with kids that we never dreamed of back, 20 years ago. Just, they weren't there. There's so many other influences and things that affect them. And so I spend at least I bet you 50% of the time just talking to them. But how does that fit into your culture? And that's hard. So I mean, all these years I've come up with, basically, I have two, but one overriding rule is don't embarrass the baseball team. So that's it. If you ask any of my players, hey, with Coach Neiman got rules, you got one, don't embarrass the team. So that puts on them a little onus of responsibility and ownership that says, if I'm faced to make a decision, I'm going to make the right decision, because baseball means enough to me, that I'm going to make the right decision. And knowing, if you don't, there's consequences. And that's it. I don't really have specific men. I've got them, Jake, when you're ready for your head coaching debut. I've got, I told Doc, I got guidelines and, policies and covenants and whatever. I got a binder full of it, So that's what the people interviewing want. The academians are where they want to hear that stuff. This is what I'm going to do. And once you get hired, put that thing back on the shelf because it's not real. It's not. It's about kids and people, and don't embarrass the team. Just don't. And you'd be surprised. I can't tell you how many airports and hotels, restaurants. Somebody would inevitably come up and say, "Coach, I can't tell you how well behaved your kids are." And it means enough to them. That they usually try to make the right decision. Sometimes they don't, and there are consequences for it. But the kid that maybe got written up on a weekend, by an RA, just out of dumbness, as opposed to the kid that's making a habit out of it. He's every week. I'll tell you it's a good, funny story. It's that big left-hander, very good. It's probably 20 years ago. Glasses, red puffy cheeks, ears, look like Alfred E. Newman, right, man? Really good, but socially inept, a little bit of a misfit. He's like a junior by now. He comes into my office one day, standing 6'3", standing in front of me. Man, he is lit up. He is red, sweating. And I said, what's going on, man? He goes, "Coach, I got written up this weekend." And I literally sat up on my desk and I'm like, "Yeah, it's great. That's outstanding. You have a pulse. You've engaged in social activity. You're alive. That's okay. What happened?" Well, I was walked in and I was actually taking a beer can. I was crushing on my head. I said, "Man, that's outstanding. It's outstanding. Let's not make a habit out of it. Okay. I don't want to see you here next week, but it's okay. Human being, it's okay. You didn't hurt anybody." And, as opposed to the kid that would show up, on a weekly basis. "Oh, look, man, you have a decision to make. You continue on the path you are and just go away. You're not part of the program. That's fine. No hard feelings, just go away." Or you can do what everybody else does and it matters to you. And then, we're all good. You choose. It's up to you to pick, not me. You're making these choices. So you need to empower those kids. Let them make their own choices and talk. And they're going to lie. They're going to fib. "Yeah, how you doing in school?" "Well, I'm doing great," which is code for, he's not. Just the way it goes. But I think, give them some ownership about it. Don't embarrass the team. That's it, man. I have something, and we as college coaches have something they want. They want to play. They want to play. And we have the power to take it away from them. That's it. See you later. Goodbye. And that's just how it is. So if you want to play for me, you need to act right and act like a human being. And, just don't be an idiot. Just don't be an idiot. So, and it's not hard. But John, they've got issues that, we never dreamed of, and everything's kind of personalized, and social media has a lot to do. Social media is great, but there's a lot of, bad things that go with it. And the kids are easily influenced or easily hurt, so sometimes you just got to be there to pick up the pieces. And so there's more to being the X's and O's guys. There's a lot of really good X's and O's guys, but the coaches that will move on and be beyond those guys are the people that can sit in the office and have a conversation with a kid and be a good listener. Just listen to them. They'll talk, and then don't judge them. Just help them make good decisions, and you move on. I've heard it all over 30 years. One kid came in, his dad called me, and his brother committed suicide. Where is that in the coaching matter? but I had to be there for him. My very first year there, one of the few good players we had was killed in a summer accident. It was between his junior senior killed. And so there I am at 30 years old, speaking at a memorial service. Where is that in the coaches' net? It's not. It's not anywhere. It's not anywhere. So. But social media, talk about relationships are really what you're left with at the end of the day. I tell my kids, I'm not going to follow you on Instagram. I don't, not while they play for me. Some stuff I'm still smart enough to look the other way. Like, okay, just don't be an idiot. But once they graduate, I like to friend them, Facebook or whatever it is, because I want to know, what your career path is. I want to know if you're getting married. I want to know, if you have kids. I want to know if you need me for anything as a reference. And I always tell them I'm here for you always. Whatever you need, and still have, kids that played for me 32 years ago that are not kids anymore, obviously, I'm still interacting with, and that, that's worth more than any win you'll ever get or any trophy you ever get, because you've made an impact on their lives that they respect and they cherish. But they have no idea how good that makes me feel, that's the bottom line. That's why, I enjoy being a coach and being with those kids, and playing the games is the easy part. You like to win, you like to put some points on the board. But again, we don't talk about winning. Just go out and play hard, play the right way. We do a lot of good things fundamentally and that sort of thing, but nothing special. It's just, the expectations are there that, hey, we want to go out and play good baseball, and we're not going to embarrass the team, and we don't chirp, we don't engage in that kind of stuff. We just go play, and play hard and play the game the right way, and usually good things will happen. Thank God they have for 3 decades.
I think clearly you're doing something right, obviously, to have that time. I think also, you've been at the same school for a majority of that, which that speaks to the respect of, I'd say with culture, talking to some of the guys before, they did, they all hinted at the whole athletic department to a degree there was a good culture there, and how, I'm sure they look at you as a leader of that with the experience you've had, and you're a big part of, getting the facility upgraded and getting people to, not just your team, but the athletic department to kind of buy into, it's the whole thing. It's not just each team kind of siloed away and stuff, and trying to create that winning kind of atmosphere.
That's very true, John. It's very true, and I think that's indicative of DeSales. I think everybody kind of, looks out for each other, and it's credit to Scott Cowell, our athletic director, and he's also the head basketball coach. So, I think people, I think, and been there. He and I have been there a long time. Fred Richter, the women's coach. I mean, younger coaches, they know we're there for them. We don't have all the answers. We're just going to try to help you figure it out. That's all. And as far as myself, I mean, when I first started there, like any young coach, I'm like, 5 years or whatever, and I'll move on to the next thing. And, it became a great place for me, and a great place for my kids to grow up and family. And I mean, just, it felt right. I mean, I had some pro opportunities to scout and, managing Class A baseball and stuff. And my kids were younger. It wasn't the right time. But, it just was a great place to be, and it still is. I mean, it's changed immensely in 30 years, as you can imagine. But, that was my path as too, and I don't begrudge anybody. I think that should be everybody's path, but at some point you have to figure out, it's like, okay, this is okay. I mean, they're going to leave me alone and do the right things, and, we have some success, and, I think that's important, as young guys, carve out their careers. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener, that's for sure. And if it is, it might have got fertilized in a different way, so you never know. I wouldn't jump ship. You always got to make sure you look at all the variables.
I mean, we could probably talk all day, Coach. I don't want to take up too much. One thing we always kind of try to end with, to help us as youth coaches in an academy, are there in particular, a couple things you see with the youth and maybe just even players that you get that we could do a better job with teaching at the younger ages, the fundamentals and stuff like that, that you see maybe going the wrong way, or there needs to be more focus on, or that what we can do better to get guys ready for that next level that you with the expectation.
Yeah, I think my grandson is 12, and I love watching his team play. They do a good job. You know what? They have fun. I mean, it's so genuine. It's so clear and clean, and it's just having fun. And before you know it, I mean, practices are good, and coaches are doing a good job, and they end up learning the game. So if they're not having fun, we always stay at camp. Keep them safe, keep them happy, and keep them moving. And if you're doing those things, sometimes they end up learning something as well. I think from, probably even 14 down, 13 down, just to make the game fun and try to teach some form of team
Camaraderie,
passion, something like that. As I get older, I get to 14, and when things start to stray, I don't think, John, it's so much of what's being taught, at academies and stuff like that. I think for the most part, people's intentions are very good, and they do a pretty good job. They're staying up on it. I think it's more the emotional and the mental part of the game for kids, and they're setting realistic expectations, with parents and stuff like that. And I think you got to encourage them to go, especially get, a sophomore in high school or freshman, even junior, go watch a game, man. Go watch and try to compare. I mean, even in scouting, I was always told, look, you see a high school kid, go see college, you got to go see the pros play because you have no reference to how, they all compare to each other. And I think that is something that is missing with a lot of programs. I think, and you hit their nail on the head earlier, is they want to put, they put it on the website, this kid went here or there. So it's about finding the right fit for a young man or a young girl, as they go through their college search. So I wouldn't get too involved in what's being taught in terms of, baseball wise. I think there's a lot of ways to teach, respect for the game, running off the field. We touched on some of those things, just, look like a ball player, act like one, don't have mom or dad carry your catcher's bag to the field. Don't let mom or dad hand you a Gatorade in the third inning. Those are things that, why is that okay? It's not okay. It's just not. But, it's a tough thing because they're customers in a lot of ways, and then you got to cut that fine line. It's like, look, how do you say it, without offending them? And we're going to go somewhere else. Okay. Okay. See you later. I mean, that's the fine line that you ride. And I get that. I get all that. But I think between the lines, I think you guys, I know you guys do really good baseball guys. I wouldn't get too worked up there. It's the abstract stuff. It's the the non-baseball kinds of things that are going on, that they're faced with, and they're so easy to influence. Man, they're influenced by their parents and other, then they can't realistically compare, their own son's situation with somebody else's. My kid got an opportunity to go to, big Division I school. Well, somebody sometime has to tell him, well, he's good enough to maybe do that, and maybe your son there's another way, another fit somewhere that'll work for him. So I don't know. It's a good question. I don't try to get too worked up with academy stuff. I think for the most part, intentions are really, really good. And I think they do care about the kids. If you can keep that connection, knowing that they're customers, but man, it's a human being you're dealing with. There's an outcome. There's a 12-year-old that, is relying on you to hopefully make them better. And there's no real one way to connect with them. I mean, there's not, every kid's so different, and that's the challenge I think that we all have.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's definitely awesome.
Yeah, no, Coach, we really appreciate the time and the insight. Like you said, there's 32 years of coaching. There's no manual that can explain what you know and people read on. So we'd love to have you back. There's so many different topics we could touch on, but I really, appreciate that some of the younger guys, we've got more into the analytics and the Rapsodo type stuff. I think just your experience in seeing, what I've taken from you is it's not just about baseball. It really is about developing good young men that, after baseball, you taught them to be a good person. And, sometimes I think that gets lost in all this, that it's bet tricks and did I get him, let's advertise he got to a big school. And it's like, well, what about the kid as a person and stuff? So
I think you work all that. I think you do that first, and then you can blend in all that other stuff.
Right.
Now how can we make you better? But if you're going to be selfish, which is what's been bred a lot of places, it makes it hard. And then you're out on an island somewhere.
Well, it's good to know, and that's helpful. I think from our perspective, coaching teams is keeping that in mind and not letting that happen, keeping that and making that part of your practices and stuff where there is team building. It's not just about necessarily individual reps or, first and third plays. It's the whole camaraderie together and stuff. So, again,
Well,
I think everybody got better today, that's for sure.
well, thank you, Jim. I'll let you come up to camp again sometime.
I love that.
there you go.
It's
My
such
favorite
fun.
time of the summer.
I'll send
Well,
videos of his IO.
Yeah.
He's doing it right.
What are we doing?
Sounds good. Well, again, appreciate the time, Coach, and
Welcome.
congratulations with all the success you've had, and hopefully with this COVID stuff. I know it's the best of luck to you guys this season. I hope it all gets shaken out and gets back to normal.
I hope so too. I really appreciate you guys having me. Hopefully, you can tune in tomorrow night at ABCA. I'm on at 5:15.
Okay.
So I think some of the stuff I touched on today you'll hear again, but it's really my life experience is what I see, and especially for young coaches, man. I think you can keep those things in perspective. All the other stuff is great, man. The X's and O's, and we all study the game, and the analytics, and all, we all do. But you'll get the perspective, what the legacy really will be for you. And I think, the relationships is really what it's about. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Coach, I'll be tuned in tomorrow night.
Yeah, baby. You're going to be in a live chat. I'll be in a live chat with you.
I'll be shooting it right there in the live chat. So. All right,
Thank you,
Coach.
Jim.
Appreciate it.
Take care, Coach. Thank you.
You're welcome.